Welcome back to So You Really Want to Learn Latin, and today we are going to be looking at one of my favourite tenses in Latin, the perfect passive. I love this one, not least because it gives us the opportunity to sing a silly little song. Now, first things first, the perfect passive has the meaning I have been whatevered. So for amo, that would be I have been loved. You have been loved, he, she, it has been loved, and so on. For mono, it would be I have been warned, you have been warned, he, she, it has been warned, and so on. Okay, so have been whatevered. Now, the formation of the perfect passive is rather fun, and this is where, at long last, we start using the fourth principal part. You will remember that the principal parts of amo are amo, amare, amavi, amatum. Okay, now that form amatum we've learnt because we're diligent students, but we have never used. Well, we're now going to start using it. Okay, and how are we going to use it? Well, we're going to take the fourth principal part, which ends in um, and we're going to change that ending into us. Okay, so amatum will become amatus. And by doing that, we've actually changed the fourth principal part, which is the supine, into a delightful little fellow called the perfect participle passive, or the PPP. Some people call it the past participle passive. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you call it the perfect participle passive or the past participle passive. What it means is having been loved, or having been warned, or having been ruled, or whatever the verb is. Okay, so we've now got this jolly little chap called the PPP, and what we're going to do is we're going to combine the PPP with the present tense of sum. So, to form the perfect passive of amo, we're going to grab amatum, its fourth principal part. We're going to change that to us, and it'll become amatus. And then we're going to add the present tense of sum. So we get amatus sum, and that means I have been loved. Okay? Amatus sum, amatus es, amatus est. That's the first three, I, you, he, she, it. In the plural, as we go into the first person plural, we, amatus is going to change to amati. And we get amati sumus, amati estis, amati sunt. So if we put it all up on the screen, you can see how that works. And the very first thing you will notice is that amatus, in the singular, can either be amatus or amata or amatum. And the reason for that is the PPP is an adjective, it goes like bonus, and it agrees with the subject. So if the subject is masculine, we will have the us form. If the subject is feminine, it'll be the form, and if it's neuter, it'll be the form. And in the plural, those endings, e for masculine plural, I for feminine plural, and for neuter plural. Okay? So, when we learn the perfect passive, we tend to just, in our heads, use the masculine ending. Amatus sum, amatus es, amatus est, amati sumus, amati estis, amati sunt. But as you're saying that, you are remembering, when I say us, I might be going or and when I go e, in the plural, I might be going I or okay? And that will all depend on the subject. If the subject is masculine, you use the masculine endings on the PPP. And if the subject is feminine, you use the feminine endings. And of course, if it's neuter, you would use the neuter ones. Now, that leads me to our little song. And our little song goes like this. To form the perfect passive, tiddly-dum, tiddly-dum, you take the PPP, tiddly-tum, tiddly-tum, You add a part of some, tiddly-tum, tiddly-tum, and make it all agree, tiddly-tum, tiddly-tum. Now, what a great little song that is. Special thanks to my friend Roland Smith, who actually typeset the original version of that back in 1998, or whenever I first wrote this course. But the tune itself is mine. I'm hanging on to copyright in the tune. But the great thing about that is it works. So, to form the perfect passive of any verb, all you need to know is that the fourth principal part of a Latin verb, which is called the supine, can be converted into the PPP simply by changing to us. So, any verb you like, let's just take naro, I tell. So if you want to say, I have been told, we are going to go to the PPP of naro. Naratum is the supine, naratus is the PPP. You take the PPP, you add a part of some, depending on whether it's I or you or he or we or you or they. So let's say we're trying to say we have been told. So we want the first person plural, present tense of sum, which will be summus. Okay, so we've now got naratus and we've got summus, but the final bit of our little song, you make it all agree. So naratus, which was masculine singular, has got to be pushed into the plural, narati. And if the subject of that happy little sentence were boys, we have been told, it would be narati summus. If we were girls, it would be naratai summus. Okay, so that's what I mean by make it all agree. Okay, so just if, a couple more little examples of that. So if you wanted to say the boys have been loved, you would say the boys would be the subject, pueri. And then have been loved, they have been loved, take amo, go to the PPP, amatus, add a part of some. Now, they have been loved, the boys have been loved, so we need sunt. And then we make amatus agree with that subject, so it becomes amati, nominative masculine plural ending on amatus. So pueri amati sunt. If you wanted to say the girls have been warned, we would start with our subject, the girls, puellai. We would go to the PPP of moneo, which would be monitus. We would add a part of some, which again would be sunt, because the subject is nominative plural, they. So we'd have monitus and sunt, but the girls are feminine, and of course nominative and plural, so we need monitus to become monitai. Okay, puellai, monitai, sunt. Okay, now that is the perfect passive. Some people spend months trying to learn it. It's really, really simple, actually, particularly if you've got your little song in your head. To form the perfect passive, you take the PPP, you add a part of some, and you make it all agree. I mean, how hard can that be? It does, of course, mean you need to have learnt your principal parts. When we came across principal parts, I did say, make sure you learn them, because they are going to become very useful. So, all verbs have principal parts, and if you're trying to form the perfect passive of a verb, you need its fourth principal part. To get the supine, you convert the supine to a PPP by changing to us, and then you follow the little rhyme. Okay, pretty easy stuff. Okay, so just a little bit of practice at that. In our book, we are on page 41. There is an exercise called 5.2. So if we just do a couple of those, I'll pick a few at random. We'll go for number 2. Milites a legato accusatus. Okay, I'll go for number 2. Miles a legato accusatus est. Okay. Verb first, as always, accusatus est. Now, that is a perfect passive. Okay, notice 2 words, accusatus and est, joined together. That is the perfect passive. and the subject is he, she, it, or a noun in the nominative singular. And because it's a perfect passive, you can even tell that it's a noun in the masculine nominative singular because of that ending accusatus. Okay, back we go to the beginning of the sentence looking for a masculine nominative singular noun, and we've got miles, the soldier. Okay, so miles, the soldier, accusatus est, has been accused, and then a legato, by the ambassador. Remember our little rule that after a passive verb, you're normally looking for something in the ablative to tell us who did that verb. And when that doer of the verb is an agent, i.e. a person or an animal, we do use a preposition. And if it is an instrument, in other words, a thing, we do not use a preposition. Okay? Right, we'll do one more. Let's have a look at number 4 in the book. Puella, per portas urbis ducta est. Go to the verb first, ducta est. Okay? Now, third person singular, and we can tell, we don't need to say he, she, or it, because ducta tells us that it's feminine. So the subject is either she or a noun in the nominative feminine singular. Back we go to the beginning, and we've got Puella. So, the girl, ducta est, has been led per portas, through the gates, urbis, of the city. Okay? Quite handy, these. Okay, and we'll do one more, this time a neuter one, just to show that neuters do crop up. We have auxilium inquiunt a copiis novis datum est. Okay, we've got some direct speech here, and our friend inquiunt. So, the bit outside the inverted commas, that little inquiunt, that's going to be they say or they said. Okay, so let's tackle the stuff that is inside the inverted commas, and we've got auxilium a copiis novis datum est. Go to the verb first, datum est. Third person singular, the subject is it, because it's datum est, it or a noun in the nominative neuter singular. Back we go to the beginning of the sentence and we find auxilium. Neuter, nominative, singular, it means help. So, help, datum est, has been given, a copiis novis, by new forces. And then inquiunt, they said. Okay, now before we go the other way from English into Latin, I just want to tell you a little thing about translating the perfect passive. I've been saying, I have been loved, you have been loved, and so on. But it can also just mean, I was loved, you were loved, it was loved. Okay? Because the perfect passive, as well as translating what you might call a true perfect tense, I have loved, but in the passive, I have been loved, it also translates that simple past tense that we've used in the perfect. Remember, amar wit can either mean he has loved or just he loved. And it's the same in the passive. Amatus sum means I have been loved or just I was loved. Okay? So, it's enormously powerful, this tense, because, you know, so many sentences you might want to say something like the city was attacked and then on the next day the Gauls sued for peace and that kind of thing. The city was attacked. Well, that is either the city was being attacked, which would be the imperfect passive, or it might be a simple past. It just happened. The city was attacked, in which case a perfect passive would be more appropriate. Okay, so when we start going from English into Latin, you've just got to think to yourself, am I using an imperfect passive or am I using a perfect passive when translating these English sentences? So, for example, we've got a sentence here: the city was destroyed by a few slaves. Well, you could argue both ways. You could say that that process took a long time. The city was destroyed and it took weeks and weeks for it to happen. Or you could just say that something happened in the past. And the thing that happened in the past was the city was destroyed. And because we've just learnt the perfect passive, that's what I'm going for here. So, the city was destroyed by a few slaves. The subject is the city, Urups. Verb at the end. By a few slaves. Now, slaves are agents because they're people. So we need the preposition. So, a servis, and then few, paukis. So, a servis paukis. And I'll tell you something about the word order in a minute. And then the verb, was destroyed. The Latin for destroy is de leo. Goes like moneo. De leo, de leri, de levi, de letum. So you go to that supine, change to us, de letus. And we're going for it was destroyed, where it is a feminine noun, the city. So, de leta est. Okay? Now, just a thing about word order. Adjectives in Latin come after their noun unless they refer to quantity. It's a little rule. I don't know if I told you that before, but it's a nice one. So, where an adjective refers to quantity, it tends to come in front of the noun, not after it. So, instead of a servis paukis, which would be by a few slaves, we're going to go a paukis servis, because paukus refers to quantity. Okay, so that sentence, urbs a paucis servis de leta est. Okay, that is the perfect passive. It, as I say, it's one of my favourite tenses, probably is my favourite tense. We can talk now about a PPP, okay, a past participle passive or a perfect participle passive, whichever you prefer. We've learnt a little rhyme, but I won't damage your ears by singing it again, but you've got the words of it. And we are now teed up, ready to just climb every kind of linguistic mountain that we can have thrown at us, because we can do the perfect passive. Okay, good luck with all of this. Drop me a comment in the box below if you're having any kind of trouble. Do subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Do buy the book if you haven't already. And I'll see you back here for more Latin very soon.